Welcome back to the Crucial Conversations podcast, you beautiful human being. This is my eighth take because I cannot record an intro today without sounding super awkward. And at this point, I'm over it, so bear with me. I'm not doing another take. If you're watching this, thank you for entertaining this contribution to the podcast, the visual component that I have vowed myself to maintain. If you're listening, thank you for listening. And if you're feeling called, leave a review because it helps the podcast out so much. Moving on from the shameless plug, I am very, very eager to get into today's crucial conversation. We are going to be talking about the elements of a good conversation and how to deepen your trust, build rapport with your colleagues at work, but also you can apply this to your relationships at home to deepen the degree of intimacy, vulnerability, trust that you have. And effectively work together as a team, whether you're at work or in a partnership, a relationship, a friendship, in a household, in a community, whatever that looks like. I'm actually offering this workshop as well as a workshop on managing conflict in the workplace with a group of attorneys, law students on a firm conference retreat in downstate of Michigan this weekend. So I'm really excited, and this is going to be a little practice round. And I really want to share this information with you guys because I spent a lot of time researching this and putting it together, and I think that it's very, very important information. So let's get into it. Okay, what is a good conversation? What is a good conversation? What are the elements of open communication? I beg you to answer that question before you continue listening to this podcast because it's really important that we have an idea of what good communication looks like in our eyes before we listen to anybody else's definition. So, answer me that. What does good communication look like? Now, hopefully you've come up with a definition aligned with your values. And now I'm going to ask you, if you were deaf and you didn't have an emotional center and you walked into a meeting room with a group of professionals and you were witnessing them having an open conversation, what would you see? You can't hear anything. You can't feel anything. What would you see? I'm going to tell you what I think I would see. I would see active engagement, body language that communicated to the people that were being spoken to and a part of the conversation that you were involved. So I would see people leaning in, I would see people open, I would see eye contact, and I would see facial expressions that detailed people were listening, attentive, and engaged. I would see clear expressions. So I would see people engaging their visual aids, engaging their employees with visual aids that were very clear and direct, to the point, making sure that what they are trying to say is very clear. And then I would see nonverbal affirmations. So head nods, smiles. You can make people feel good without saying anything. So offering nonverbal affirmation is a very important component to open communication because in everything that we bring to a conversation, we are helping contribute to that conversation. So providing that affirmation helps people to continue to open up, be honest, share their feelings, share their thoughts, and not feel like they are being judged or not feeling ashamed for sharing their thoughts. Okay, if you were blind and you didn't have an emotional center, what would you hear if you entered the room and you were listening to a good, open conversation? I think I would hear encouraging phrasing. I think I would hear things like, I appreciate you for sharing that. Thank you, that's really helpful to know. And I would hear proactive clarifications. So if there was misunderstanding, I would hear people asking questions to confirm that they understand what's being communicated. So, hey, I'm not sure I have a full understanding on this. Can you please expand on it a little bit more? So what I'm hearing is X. Can you confirm if this is correct or not? This is so helpful in our relationships at work because it builds a deeper understanding, and especially if you're on a team, you need to be aligned. You cannot leave any room for confusion or else your group is not strong. Same thing goes in your relationships. If there is misunderstanding, you are not able to effectively work together toward a common goal. So make sure that you understand what's going on by asking clarifying questions. I would hear, you would hear, we would hear inclusive language. And it's funny, I actually didn't even mean to do that. I just said I would hear, and then I said you would hear, and I said we would hear. We would hear inclusive language. Instead of saying I or you, we would use words like we or our so that we could establish common ground, make sure that we are noticing the fact that we are a unit and we're working together. Because this cohesiveness and degree of connection that we're communicating through the words that we choose helps to enhance everybody's feelings of belonging to the team, in the relationship. It's the common ground. We are working together toward a goal. It is not you and me versus the problem. It is us. I'm sorry, it is not you versus me. It is you and me versus the problem or the decision or the common goal. Use inclusive language. We would hear constructive feedback. So instead of saying, this is all wrong, this sucks, God, I hope your boss or your teammate is not saying that to you, or you're not saying that to anyone else or your partner. That's not good. That doesn't make anybody feel too hot about themselves. So making sure that we're providing constructive feedback, things like, I think you took it a little bit of a different approach than I would have with this. Why don't we try X to improve the outcome? Would you be open to trying this? I think it might actually enhance our chances for success. The inclusive language is also really important here. Like, don't put it all on the other person. Not a recipe for feeling like you're working together. And lastly, I think we would hear a lot of accountability. So people wouldn't be diverting blame on others. They would be taking radical accountability. There wouldn't be fear necessarily of the repercussions or shame in making mistakes. We would be taking accountability for our actions, for our mistakes, and for our ideas as well. All right, what does it feel like if you were blind and you were deaf, but you could feel, and somebody could somehow like direct the energy towards you in an open communication or open conversation? How would you feel? You'd feel safe and respected. You can share your thoughts, your ideas, and you will not be judged. You will not be condemned, as long as they're respectful, of course. You'd be feeling really empowered. You'd be like, yeah, this feels really good right now. I feel like what I have to say is of value. You'd feel connected and understood as well. Every single person in the history of the world has entered conversations with the same goal in mind. And I'm going to tell you what that is. It's to be heard. Nobody I know or have ever come to know, whether I'm reading a book about a person or I'm watching a video or I'm watching a TV show, I have never witnessed someone engage in a conversation, say something without the desire to be heard or received by others. We all want to be heard. We all want to be understood. We deeply, deeply want to be understood. This is what open communication feels like. So, if we know what open communication looks like in the workplace, we often isolate ourselves. We take on a lot of responsibility. We don't ask for help. We feel like we have to do everything by ourselves. Sometimes we take on this same stress and overwhelm in relationships as well. We want to keep it together for our partner. We want to keep it together for our teammates at work. And we don't want to admit that we're not doing well or that we're struggling because we think that it indicates incompetence or weakness. This is not the case. My goal in recording this podcast and doing what I do is simply to integrate all components of humanity in all areas of life. We do not need to shut down the emotional center when we are in professional settings. If we integrate who we are as human beings as a whole in all the areas of our life, we are actually more successful, more productive, more creative, more connected. Our relationships are better, there's more trust, and collectively, we're more successful, we're happier, we're healthier. Integration is so powerful. It is a harmony as human beings that we achieve when we recognize all the components of who we are in all areas of our life. So why do we not collaborate with other people? Why do we not openly communicate with one another? Why do we feel like we have to do everything alone? Why do we isolate ourselves so often and feel like we are bearing the weight of the world on our shoulders, but we can't ask for help? And how does this lack of communication, lack of collaboration, limit our individual, personal, professional, and collective growth? I ask these questions so that you can ponder them. Now, I think that there are a lot of different answers to these questions, and I'm going to leave that to you guys because I'm not going to tell you what I think you need to hear. I think I'm going to ask you the questions and I'm going to let you sit with that. But what I will do is I will tell you. I actually am going to answer that question because I think it's important to hear different perspectives. But I do think it's really important that you ask yourself the question before you listen to the answer. You know, like form your own opinions, right? But here's the thing. I have done a lot of research about this. I have garnered a lot of experience from a lot of different people from a lot of different paths of life. So let's get into this. What are some of the obstacles? Why don't we openly communicate? Why do we not collaborate? Fear of being judged. We think that when we share our ideas, when we think that we share our emotions, that we're going to be judged by others. And this is scary because we want to be accepted. We have an inherent deep desire to belong. We don't want to be judged. We don't want to be ashamed of ourselves based on the interpretations of who we are or our ideas or our opinions or our feelings that other people form. And we don't want to be vulnerable. We feel like being vulnerable is a weakness when we share that we're struggling. We share that we have feelings, that we have shared that things are going on outside of work. We feel like that vulnerability is weak. But again, this integration of the whole is so powerful because when we recognize that we're all humans, we become a permission slip for other people. And we build trust and we build relationship, which is a critical component to engagement in the workplace, as well as fulfillment, as well as deep, deep connection and relationship. And maybe you just don't like your coworkers. Maybe you don't get along well and you don't want to collaborate. You don't want to communicate. You don't like them. Here's the thing. You don't have to like someone to be able to work with them. I challenge you to focus on the things that you do like about the person, whether it's, how they work or what they do for work. You might not like them. You might not like their personality, but what do you like about them? Figure it out because you're going to have to work with them anyways. And maybe you don't feel safe. Maybe you're worried about the repercussions of openly communicating how you're feeling or your thoughts or your ideas. Maybe you feel like if you communicate this openly, there will be consequences. I feel this way. Well, if you feel that way, you're not qualified to do the job. Well, if you feel that way, then I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. Yeah, not grounds for open communication. So be honest about how you're feeling. Like, hey, I'm a little bit nervous that if I share this, I'm going to be fired. Most of the time people are going to be like, dude, what? Like, you're good, So it's okay to communicate some of your fears, but these are the obstacles that we face. Now, this hurts us because it causes us to have unforced error. It causes us to make mistakes because we don't have a full understanding. When we don't have a full understanding, we are much less likely to perform at a level of high capacity because our buckets are empty. We don't have all the information because we haven't communicated. We haven't generated understanding based on more perspectives and diverse approaches. We're not able to effectively approach a problem if we don't fully understand it. And it might not even be a problem. It might be a project. It might be an issue in a relationship. It might be a new hobby. If we don't have an understanding, we can't approach this as well as we could if we openly communicated and collaborated with one another. And bad culture, negative emotions. Yeah. Nobody likes to work in an environment that is angry, closed off, judgmental, toxic. Nobody would ever sign up for a job that listed that as a job, as a part of the job description. I wouldn't. So, negative culture. Failure to work together effectively. We can't work with other people if we don't communicate with them, period. And isolating yourself and doing everything on your own, you're going to burn yourself out. So a piece of advice, because I've been there, ask for help. You have a unique set of strengths that you are better able to leverage when you're not focused on a million different things at once, when you're not focused on your weaknesses, when you can draw on the strengths of other people on your team to help you better balance out your own strengths. Okay, so how can we overcome these barriers and where do we benefit from more collaboration? We can initiate more conversations. Everybody can be a leader based on how you take initiative in conversation. Initiate more conversations, get curious, ask more questions, include people more often in the problem-solving, decision-making process. Ask yourself, how would you benefit from help? How might I benefit from a little bit of help here? How might I be able to leverage the strengths of my teammates, other people, be open about where I'm at, where I need help, so that I can better focus on my strengths, so that I can do my job better? Focus on what you do like about your coworkers. We talked about this. You don't have to like someone to know that they're good at their job. You don't have to like someone to know that they are really, really good at editing videos. You don't have to like them, but you can like things that they do. You can like things about them. And if you're nervous about these kinds of things, discuss with a peer or somebody that you trust first. It can make the conversation a lot less daunting when you have it with a supervisor or somebody that you actually have to address a problem with. This provides us with a 360-degree understanding of the problem. Better understanding is always more effective. Period. More productivity. We have the opportunity to increase productivity by up to 29% when we openly communicate and collaborate because we're engaged. And companies with engaged employees perform better, consistently outperform companies with poor company culture, lack of communication, lack of collaboration. More creativity. Creativity has opportunity to increase by 50% when we increase the amount of engagement in the workplace, which is a direct result of open communication and collaboration. It's more fulfilling. We like doing our jobs more when we can openly communicate what we're good at, where we're struggling, and work together as a team. More profit. We actually have the opportunity to increase profit as well. Up to 29%. We can increase profit by engaging employees with open communication and collaboration. So active listening, we're going to just briefly touch on this, is a really big component to communication. Sometimes people think that in order to communicate, it's all about speaking, it's all about articulating your thoughts, about being kind in the way that you approach things. It is just as much, if not more, about listening. And when I say listening, I mean active listening, and cultivating a space for empathy as well. People need to be recognized in order to feel like they're valued. So active listening, it's really listening like you care. And if you really do care, you don't have to listen to the rest of this episode, because when you listen like you care, because you do care, people can tell. And I think it's really important to have some tools for active listening, especially when maybe we're running into issues like I don't love my coworkers or I'm struggling. So we're going to go over some tools, but if you care, then the way that you're listening is probably very affirmative for the people that you are communicating with. But there are 3 techniques that I do want to go over with you guys. First one being ask questions and paraphrase. Ask questions. Get curious. Get people talking and then observe and absorb. The more that we can get people to talk about themselves and their opinions, the more that we learn, the more understanding that we garner, and the more trust that we build with our people. We are communicating that we care when we ask questions. I want to hear what you have to say. I value what you have to say. And I'm understanding you a lot better, so now we can effectively work together. And paraphrasing what we're hearing, again, also makes people feel heard and offers opportunity for clarification. So, hey, I'm hearing that you are really struggling with X. Am I correct in saying that? Now, this either offers the opportunity for the other person to correct us and make sure that we really understand what they're saying by saying, hey, well, not quite. I actually feel XYZ. Or it offers the opportunity for them to be like, yeah, this is exactly how I'm feeling. Thanks for hearing me. Okay, so they feel heard. Now we have a full understanding of what's going on and we can better work together. Mirroring and labeling. And when I say labeling, I think that this can also be validating. So matching the energy of the person that you're communicating with. Can you mirror the tone, the cadence, the words, the body language, the energy that person is bringing into a conversation to make them feel more comfortable? You will elicit a lot more out of the conversation if the other person in the conversation feels like they belong. Because we all have this deep desire to belong. And so we like people that are like us. We like people that are like us. So if I am talking really, really, really fast to somebody who talks like this and is really, really relaxed and chill, they're probably not going to feel comfortable. So sometimes I have to watch myself in conversations because I'm really high energy and I'm super in your face. Sometimes, right? Not all the time. I'm a dynamic human being. But I have to be careful because I've done this before and I've scared some people off and I've made them kind of uncomfortable in conversations. I'm going to be honest. So mirroring people's energy to make them feel like they belong, and then validating emotions by labeling them. Like, hey, I'm noticing that you're a little bit frustrated about this. I want to make sure I understand where this is coming from. When we label the emotions, we allow the opportunity to de-escalate them, and we also validate them. And it offers room for expansion as well. So yeah, I actually am feeling really frustrated because, okay, now we understand and now we can better work together. And getting comfortable with silence. Getting comfortable with silence. We interrupt each other so much, and I am so guilty of this. So guilty. Because I have so many things swimming around in my head, and I want to offer my opinions, and I want to problem solve, and oftentimes I cut people off, and I don't mean to do it, but I do it. And what this signals to other people is that we don't care about what they have to say, whether that's our intention or not, whether that's how we truly feel or not. When we interrupt people, and Lord knows I hate being interrupted, and I know you do too, because nobody likes being interrupted. We're telling people that we interrupt, that we don't care about what they have to say. What we have to say is more valuable. And this doesn't make another person really excited to continue to share, to continue to open up, to put themselves out on the line and feel like they're not being received. We want to be received. So we have to open up the space to receive one another. Now, we also have to get comfortable with silence, because I know that this is why a lot of people tend to interrupt, is because silence is awkward. Air quotes, if you're not watching me right now. But it's not awkward. Silence is important. Silence is powerful because it allows us time to make sure that what we're saying is aligned with what we want to say, and that what we want to say is aligned with what we do say. So Jefferson Fisher, he's a trial lawyer and he has his own podcast, and he has a lot of really, really potent content out there about communication. And he says, let your breath be your first word. And I think this is so powerful because we don't need to be in a rush to respond. We're not in a rush to respond. Take your time and let silence speak before you do. Stop interrupting. It's annoying. And Lord knows it's annoying. Now, here's the thing. It feels good to be listened to by other people. And I know that because when people listen to me, I feel really, really connected to them. And I'm sure that you feel the same. So how can we more effectively listen to one another? That's the last question that I'm going to leave you with. And I hope that you think on it. And I hope that you integrate some of these practices into your relationships at work and at home. Improve your communication skills and you will improve your life. Thank you guys for listening. I love you so much. And I will see you next time on the Crucial Conversations podcast. Hey y'all, before you head out, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode, and most importantly, thank you for making the conscious decision to invest in yourself and expand your mind. By doing so, you are helping to elevate us all to live better lives. By showing up and emulating the things that you learned in today's crucial conversation, you are inspiring those around you. If you want to continue this domino effect, share this episode with someone that you want to help to unlock their maximum potential. And connect with me on Instagram at @GabbyRosleyCo to share your valuable feedback and offer recommendations for what you'd like to hear in future episodes. I love you all. Keep shining your unique lights, and I will see you next time on the Crucial Conversations podcast.